Okay, for everyone who just clicked this, I'm going to save you about 10 minutes right now. This entire video is just me giving reasons why people need to shut the up about political agendas within the video game industry. For those still sticking around, however, let's get started. The point I'm going to try to make is epitomized by the recent launch of Ubisoft's Far Cry 5 and its reception by primarily Polygon. Now, some people are probably going to say things about how Polygon is an outlier, how they spew this kind of nonsense all the time, and it can't really be taken seriously. And that's partially correct, but the sad truth is that Polygon has a lot of readers, a lot of followers, and their reviews can indeed have an impact. Before jumping into the review itself and the subtext behind it, I have to say that overall, I am a fan of the review process itself. The action of reviewing games post-release to showcase different subjective opinions and provide information to further potential buyers on whether or not they would like to purchase or pass, that is indeed very important. Normally, that part about subjective opinion is a kind of blanket safety net. For instance, I personally think Warframe is great. Others may think it's too grindy and that it sucks. A game for me can be a 9 or a 10 out of 10, but for another kind of similar gamer, it can be a 2 or a 3 out of 10. That's okay, but the reasons behind those ratings matter a great deal. If a game is glitchy or too short, or if it has invasive microtransactions or a lack of endgame content, these can all be big negative strikes that are held against it in the review process. Subjectively, if a reviewer feels that the story is bland or written badly as to not build up characters, build their attachment, or have a satisfying wrap-up, that again is a justifiable reason to review it poorly. However, to mark a game as not political enough in a culture of constant political outrage is like saying, you didn't give us enough reasons to get mad at you, so we're mad at you. That is exactly what Polygon has done. It reads at one point, and I quote, "It's a timely story that could at least try to address the polarized nature of current American politics, or talk about the issues inherent in a country that seems to worship firearms." And this same justification is repeated throughout the review in different forms as the primary reason why the narrative is weak, something that, at least in my own circle of creators, is almost universally disputed. My colleagues view the narrative in Far Cry 5 as one of its strongest points with its character arcs, its setting, and its plot. At one point, the review also reads that enemies are often taking part in the violence that is part of the story because of a drug called bliss, but that, and I quote, "the game totally fails to recognize the horror of shooting American drug addicts while the nation deals with a very real ongoing opioid crisis," end quote. But is that not a statement in and of itself? The game takes these topics head on. The drug is there. It affects the population. There is then a violent reaction, and out of necessity for survival, those violent offenders are put down by the player. Just because it isn't some mollycoddling stance about rehabilitation and passive solutions to current political issues does not mean that it is not a statement altogether, and it definitely does not mean that the game can be penalized for, quote, "not even trying to address the polarized nature of current American politics." Towards the end of the review is where it just completely falls apart. It reads in the second to last paragraph, open quote, "Far Cry 5 makes fun of everyone on the political spectrum without ever taking a clear stand except to say with toothless confidence that murderous cults are bad," end quote. This is where, for anyone who made it to this point in the review, which honestly, I don't even know how many people did because this one is just way off the deep end, they probably just closed the tab and laughed because it's just pure garbage. Making fun of everyone on the political spectrum is a statement. It's a tribute to the absurdity of the current political atmosphere where anything and everything breeds political outrage. I can't speak for the artists directly behind Far Cry 5, but one could draw conclusions about a stance on the militarization of police from the game's narrative, about the effect of radical religious groups, and the malleability of average citizens when subjected to a charismatic leader. It clearly holds a commentary on Second Amendment rights usage and the effect of mass amounts of firearms on an isolated population. The game has a stance. The game makes its statement, but because it is not a statement that people can easily be offended by, at least on a surface level, it gets labeled as, quote, "not political enough, so it's bad." But we all know well that if the game was more politically polarized to either end of the spectrum, it would be attacked even worse for it. Polygon has basically written a long explanation of why not being offensive enough, or being offensive to everyone and not specifically the people that they want you to be offensive to because it's okay to be offensive to those people, is itself offensive and not good. And this review paints a strong picture, at least to me, with its targeted language, that they have a very liberal gun rights view and are upset that the game did not agree with them, or at the very least offer up some sort of rallying cry stance which would lend itself well to their continued outrage. If at this point in particular anyone out there strongly disagrees, I welcome you to write up a comment and open up an educated debate below this video in the comment thread. Truly I do. But if it's going to be some long-winded paragraph starting with a slur and ending with a wet fart, well, the joke's on you because you already watched enough of the video to benefit me, so haha. Moving on. This issue goes far deeper than reviews as well. While the Polygon review is a great example of political agendas for the simple sake of manufactured outrage infecting gaming, a larger issue is looming. There is a false narrative being circulated and scapegoated by certain mainstream media outlets and political candidates that violent video games in some ways are contributing to contemporary tragedies. While it is unlikely that anything will actually come of this blatantly idiotic stance, it is still concerning to me as a gamer seeing such a baseless claim be used as an offhand tactic for a tertiary political agenda. I could spout statistics for days about how there is literally no merits to the claim that violence in video games contributes to violence in players. For instance, this study right here by the University of York with over 3,000 participants, which found no correlation whatsoever between games and increased aggression. The study went on to test it in multiple ways and is not alone in this goal. There is a lengthy list of reputable studies, universities, and academics who have definitively proven that violent games are not the boogeyman that some political groups would have us believe. As a gamer and a content creator who does indeed touch on this sort of topic from time to time, it kind of freaks me out to watch this trend emerge. Even if it's not a majority outrage scenario, as of yet, we have animosity clearly building across the board. Historically accurate games are attacked for not including enough diversity. Games that make the attempt to include a checklist of different demographics are attacked because it's shallow and tokenistic and it's clearly only done for marketing. Yeah, no shit. Of course it's done for marketing. You force them to do it for marketing. Games that are political in any way are attacked by their complementary opposite, and games are even now attacked for not being political enough. All the while, the fallacy that video game culture and violence in games is somehow an actionable and impactful problem which deserves daylight in the media and legislative arenas. I'm nobody, honestly. In the grand scheme of gaming, I'm a speck on the wall, but I can't help but feel like it's my responsibility, not only to the audience I do have, but to myself, to discuss these types of topics and other similar areas like this, because bearing witness over the course of these past few years to the trends that have emerged, both on Twitch and YouTube, in gaming reviews, in the development landscape, and all other areas involved as a creator, it has become painfully obvious to me that once meaningful and valuable movements have become warped and demented. People just want to be upset now. They want to attack each other, and particular groups more than others aggressively try to silence anything that is not in stone cold agreement with them. Even now, this is me attacking Polygon and various political stances on gaming because, well, I wouldn't really say that I'm outraged exactly, but I'm upset that this type of behavior is so prevalent. You can say that I'm making mountains out of molehills, and truthfully, any criticism out there that someone on YouTube can level in the comment section, I've honestly heard it before. But I still feel that when covering issues such as this on the channel, even if only a small number of viewers take away any sort of useful thought-provoking conclusions, I have still produced content that to me feels meaningful. Video games are art, and you won't catch me pulling punches when something over-advertises and under-delivers, but Far Cry 5 is not one of those culprits. I am a skeptic at heart. I may even stray into the realm of pessimism at times if we're being totally honest here, but when games emerge that do not under-deliver, in an industry where there have been some pretty epic disappointments in recent memory, I find that to be worthy of defense. If we as gamers approach games with a fair and measured stance, clearly articulating when games fail to meet expectations and also making it clear why they failed to do so, then the industry can move forward. If we then back up our stances with purchase patterns and educated spending, the positive direction would be solidified further. But if the notable creators and outlets have no idea what they are even trying to say, and they fire off half-baked, self-contradicting paragraphs about political garbage, and they bandwagon on top of escalating hype trains for personal gain, we do nothing but cycle the spiral downward even faster. If nothing else, I hope this provokes at least some conversations. All this considered, I have these right here for anyone interested. These shirts kind of started as a joke, honestly, in an older video, but I mean, people actually like them and they want them, so I kept them around. If you want to be the antithesis of warped, politically correct, self-defeating confusion, then you can pick one up. The link is down below. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, though. If you would like to take part in the upper echelon communities to meet other gamers or just socialize in general or even have educated discussions, check out the other links in the description below. There's the Facebook group, our gaming forums, etc., etc. There's a bunch of stuff there. As always, though, I'll cut it here. Thank you for watching and have a nice night.